I, female 18, was always pretty close to my dad. Closer to my mom, but I often visited my dad about 3 to 4 times a week. A few years ago, he started dating Anna. Anna and I always got along, and when my dad proposed, I was happy. Anna seemed like she'd be a great stepmom. Well, a few weeks before the wedding, after I had bought everything, dress, shoes, etc., my dad and Anna said they needed to talk to me. Anna and my dad decided to have a child-free wedding, which I get, especially for young kids. Well, turns out, child-free means no one under 18. On the day of the wedding, I was still going to be 17, so therefore, I wasn't allowed to be at the wedding because Anna wanted to stay true to the child-free rule, even for the daughter of the groom and her about-to-be stepdaughter. The funny thing is, my 18th birthday was just 2 days after the wedding, but still, I wasn't allowed to go. The wedding was 3 days ago, and my birthday was yesterday. I haven't talked to Anna or my dad since they told me I couldn't attend the wedding since I wasn't an adult. My mom took me on a birthday vacation, and yesterday, I posted birthday pictures on Facebook and said, "Finally, an adult." I'm so glad my dad and Anna didn't allow me at their wedding since I was under 18. I have felt more mature since yesterday. The family was freaking out, asking if that was true and bashing my dad and Anna. I later got a bunch of texts from my dad and Anna calling me immature and a selfish brat, and that's why I was too immature to be at a wedding. I was talking to some friends, and they said I was kind of an idiot for doing that, and I should have just let it go. Am I the idiot for being petty and putting on social media the reason I wasn't at my dad's wedding? Not the idiot. What kind of man doesn't have his own child at his wedding? They made the choice. If they believe it was the right choice, they should have no issue about it being publicly known. Plus, people might well assume you weren't there because you disapproved of his new wife or chose a vacation instead. Ensuring people know why you weren't there saves your own reputation. This is what I'm betting happened too. They probably said you were boycotting the wedding, or it was mom's time, so they wouldn't get painted as the idiots they are. They, extended family, wouldn't be asking you if your post was true if they hadn't been told a different story. Dad and his fiancée lied about why you weren't there. That's why people are bashing them. I'm a bit petty, so I would call Anna, her dad's fiancée, forever, because I never saw her getting married. Oh, I'm in the same boat as you, OP, but I wasn't a child. I was 20 and didn't even know he got married, even though I was around both of them before the wedding. My gram told me she was disappointed that my brother, 19 at the time, and I didn't go to their courthouse wedding. My response was, "What wedding?" She was freaking angry at them for lying. Honey, the no children was made for you. I'm sorry, but let that sink in. She made that rule to keep you out. You now know where you stand in their marriage. You don't. I'm so sorry. I personally think it was epic. Harsh, but epic. They deserved more than that. I would have even updated your social media with pictures of their text. I'd also like to point out something I've yet to see mentioned. As a mother, if I were getting married, I wouldn't plan my wedding for 2 days before my daughter's birthday. The whole she purposefully chose to have her wedding 2 days before OP's birthday to exclude her is even worse when you realize that her dad knew when his new wife picked that date that it was 2 days before his daughter's 18th birthday. A good dad would have told his new wife, absolutely not. It's not just that the date was chosen to exclude her, it was chosen to overshadow her 18th birthday. I second this. Serious wicked stepmother vibes. 2 days before your 18th birthday. Why shouldn't you speak out about it? Just be grateful she didn't get someone to take you into the woods and try to kill you, I suppose. That the problems she causes are also hers to fix. The actual incident. She stupidly went for an unprotected left turn and hit another car. My car was not badly damaged, while the other was totaled and the driver injured. After the impact, I immediately pulled out my license and insurance card, handed them to her, and told her to get out and deal with it. She hovered around while passerby were helping the other driver and repeatedly ran back to me to beg me to do it for her. I stuck to my guns. I did not completely throw her to the wolves as my window was down and I could hear the entire conversation. My daughter handled it rather terribly, admitting fault immediately, but it was her fault, to be fair. I was expecting the other driver to let her have it and use it as a learning opportunity not to do it again. But the opposite happened. Literally, my daughter injured this woman, totaled her car, and scared the crap out of her dog in the back seat. And she told her that it was okay. It was just a car. That's why we have insurance. You're a kid. Are you kidding me? Then she holds her hand through the whole exchange of information and tells her what to do when she gets home, which I thought I went over, but evidently not well enough. Needless to say, my daughter will not be driving for a long time until she understands how lucky she is not to be in jail for vehicular manslaughter right now. Now, although my daughter is usually very responsible and understanding of consequences, she spent most of the last week crying or shut up in her room and has barely spoken to me. The few things she has said have been about how she needed me to help her, and I didn't. I feel that I helped her by preparing her, and I would have stepped in if I had to, except the other driver was babying her. But I wanted to get feedback because my daughter's not usually the dramatic type. You are the idiot. She's a new driver who made a mistake with a cruel parent who's more angry that the other woman didn't yell and scream at her than that she got in an accident and was scared. Your reaction is ridiculous. And no, she wouldn't go to jail for an accident. Of course she handled it terribly. She's a kid with a learner's permit. What's your excuse for handling this terribly and cruelly? Your daughter needs actual driving lessons. You should not be the one teaching her. I can't imagine doing this to my kid, but if I were teaching a friend or a random stranger to drive, I'd have the common decency to get out of the car and accept responsibility as the supervising driver. A child without a license isn't at fault in an accident. They don't know how to drive yet. That's why they have a supervising qualified driver with them, and that driver must be sober and paying attention. You are the idiot because, as her instructor, the accident was your fault. It's almost unbelievable how little compassion OP has for his kid. An accident of that level is incredibly traumatic, and he just sent his kid out to deal with it on her own. Who let this man reproduce? Shock. Did you get her medically checked out? Nah, he's too busy punishing her. Big on personal responsibility sounds like code for toxic parenting. I reckon he knew it was his fault the whole time and just didn't want anyone to yell at him. He probably sat huddled in the passenger seat, scrolling on his phone, desperately trying to find some way that this wasn't his legal responsibility. Coward to the core. I'd love to be a fly on the wall as that woman was telling her family and friends about the accident. My youngest son made a new friend last year, and now that it's summer, they've had play dates. Her parents both work, so she usually comes over here. She's Hispanic, and she sometimes says things in Spanish. Whenever she says anything in Spanish, my husband will ask her what she said, even if she's in an entirely different room. Like yesterday, I was in the living room watching them play, and my husband was in the kitchen. She said something in Spanish, and he came out of the kitchen and asked her to repeat herself and explain the translation. I felt so embarrassed. She looked confused, and it was just so awkward. She wasn't talking to him. Why does it matter? I told him today that I'd like him to stop, and he looked at me like I was crazy. He said we should know what the kids are saying in our house. I said it was embarrassing, and he asked me, if I was seriously worried about what a tween thought of us. I came away from the conversation feeling really stupid. I know it's a harmless question, and I shouldn't make such a big deal about it, but I often feel embarrassed in awkward situations, and it always feels so awkward when he does this. Am I the idiot for asking him to stop just because I'm embarrassed, even though he did nothing wrong? Edit. He doesn't speak Spanish, but usually, context clues make it clear what she's saying. I don't think you actually care what a kid thinks of you. I think you care whether a tween guest is being made to feel uncomfortable in your home. And you're absolutely right to care about that. And the fact is that she's being made to feel that way. Your husband is rude, a bully, and probably racist. You are not the idiot. Consider this. If your husband went up to a grown woman speaking Spanish and asked them what they were saying, if they were talking to themselves in a language they're comfortable with, would it be okay? Like if he was at the store and just butted over to a woman near him or in line at the bank and demanded she tell him what she was saying in Spanish. Would that be fine? He's getting away with it because this child is a guest in your home. Just because she's a child doesn't mean he has a right to harass her for speaking her language. Does he want to ruin your son's friendship? Or is he just thick? Of course the kid's gonna feel uncomfortable knowing he's eavesdropping the whole time to make sure she only speaks English. It's just a matter of time until she stops coming because of that bully dad. It's such a great opportunity for your child to grow up learning a few phrases in another language. Every little helps, and nothing's more motivating than real-life experience. Your husband should be ashamed of himself. So, on his 18th birthday, my wife and I gave our son his college fund and told him he could do as he pleased with it. He chose to spend it traveling and finding himself over the last 2 years. He's 20 now and wishes to go to school, and he asked us to pay for his tuition. When I asked what happened to the money, he told us the above. I said no and told him if he wanted to go to school, he better get a job. My wife wants to pay it for his future. I said no, we did right, and he chose otherwise. We did inform him that the money was his to use, be it for college or whatever. It was his money. After all, we set it aside for him. We did explain the intent, but he's an adult, and he was free to use it as he pleases. Just understand the consequences. 18 is an adult in my eyes, and old enough to understand that actions have consequences. We informed him what the money was intended for, and we would not police him over it. My son also knows I did exactly what my dad did to me. I also did not use the money to go to school. I used it as a down payment on 2 houses and rented them out and asked him for help. My son was free to do the same. He may not have had the knowledge or impulse control, but he is old enough to know it's okay to ask for help if he's unsure how to use said money or has no idea what to do with his life. I'm not a monster, and he knows this. He could have just asked, "Hey, I want to travel. How can I best go about that?" Had he asked, I would have said, "Let's do X, Y, and Z with your money." Then I would have given him some money to travel. We did the same with his car. He wanted a car, we told him to save. When he saved up the amount needed to buy the car, I told him to keep it, and we bought him a car. He knows I don't think solely to be a cruel monster. He had many options, but he chose the worst one, and I was not going to forcibly interject my views if he didn't want to come to ask me for help. The fact he didn't meant to me that he didn't want my guidance. So, am I the idiot for not paying for our son's college tuition after he blew his money despite being able to afford it? Not the idiot, but seriously, did you actually expect an 18-year-old to make good choices with that kind of money? What did you do before to prepare him for money management and the huge responsibility you just dumped on him? That's the big question. If I'm being honest here, it sounds like this was more of an issue of the parents failing to parent a kid who still needed more guidance at 18. They used his age, which is arbitrary because not everyone matures at the same rate, to decide when their duty as parents was over. It sounds to me like they failed him. One of the best things a parent can do is pass down financial literacy to their child. These are taught in lessons, not by handing over a lump sum of money. Remember, the majority of lottery winners spend their money within 1 year. Everyone's the idiot here. You gave what sounds like a massive amount of money to a very young man with no worldly experience and let him go. Of course he blew the money. You say at 18, he was an adult. What did you do to prepare him for the real world? And what would happen when that money was gone? Did you talk about options or just let him make his own choices? It sounds like you shoved him out of the nest and are shocked that he crashed. I'm just chuckling at all the people saying that this is incredibly stupid. Why would you trust an 18-year-old with that decision-making? And yet, that's what people do daily, signing up for student loan debt. 18 is old enough to make responsible choices. Otherwise, we wouldn't let them vote, or drive, or work, or get married. The kid was able to save money for a car. He made an informed decision to travel for 2 years. He spent the college fund. It's not a magic well of money that replenishes itself. I, 30s female, am visiting my parents in my childhood home. My old bedroom is kept as my room and has a super king bed. Currently, it's just me and my toddler sharing this room. My cousin, 23 female, her husband, and their baby, who are relatively close to my parents, decided to stay at our house because my dad was not feeling well. When I say our house, it's because I'm also a legal owner of the property. My name's on the title. Cousin and her husband are in the guest room with a double bed. Their baby's sleeping in my baby's cot, which they asked for, hence why my child is sleeping in my bed with me. They live in the same city, a 35-minute drive, but my dad has been in and out of the hospital for a few days, so I guess they wanted to be present. Today, my cousin came up to me and demanded that I switch to the guest room that she's using and give her family my room. I said no because it's my room. She started complaining that the bed in my room was too much space for one adult and a baby, and that they deserved the bigger bed because they were 2 adults. I said, no, this is my room. You're guest, so you're in the guest room, and I'm not giving up my bedroom. She screamed at me so loudly that it woke up both our kids from their naps. I still refused, but she's got her mom blowing up my phone, and even her husband's trying to guilt me with their baby. My mom is furious that this makes the house tense when dad is sick. Am I the idiot? Edit. They don't help my parents. My parents help them. They visit my parents twice a month, and I know my parents give them money and sometimes groceries, etc. I've given them my child's old stuff too, when he grows out of it. We're of Indian origin, and there's a lot of community and social pressure about maintaining family ties. So, are you telling me that your cousin's family is living in your parents' house during this time of distress and not contributing? Are they making you and your mother, who has an ill spouse and father, cook their dinner and wash their dishes as if they're guests? Are they hanging around as some kind of vultures? If they complain about anything again, tell them to go home, because you don't have the time or the mental energy to deal with an inconsiderate guest. You're not the idiot. Are you sure your cousin still has a home? Did they get evicted and they don't want to tell anyone until they've established residency in OP's house? What is wrong with people, husband and mom included, to act like this when your father's sick? He's the priority, and your mom needs her sleep too. Can't you ask them to leave? You and your mom deserve to have a calm home, and everything you're going through, they're being intrusive. Cousin's probably hoping her uncle will see how helpful she's being and give her the bigger cut of his will. She probably thinks he's on his deathbed. I'm so sorry you're dealing with such lame people while your dad is sick. Send them home and change the locks. Honestly. Update. The consensus here is that they've seen my dad is unwell, and they're trying to either muscle in on the house or the will in general. Ostensibly, they are claiming that because sisters exacerbated dad's symptoms, that they're here to cheer him up so his stress levels don't rise. I'm doing the cooking and cleaning and physically helping mom with dad. LOL. They don't help at all. I think I need to talk to my mom when she wakes up, but neither of us is good at being confrontational with family.